Are Kadai Fireborn any good in patch 6.1.2? I am not ignorant of other YouTubers saying this unit is not functioning well enough to justify. I'll go over the stats, I'll go over my observations, but this unit comes with a lot of community baggage despite the coolness factor. Let's take a good flaming look at whether this unit is right for you, and how to play it with strengths and not its weaknesses. Recruit for 1400 gold and 350 upkeep. Figures that will change according to the legendary lord and situation. On Ultra, this gets you 16 flaming constructs with 7,872 health between them, which isn't nothing, but which is short of the Minotaur standard. Armor is a solid 80, physical resistance is 10% base. Fire resistance is a full 35%, leadership of 60 isn't as high as we wish it was. Speed 54 and charge speed 85 is extremely similar to Ogres. Melee attack begins at 32, and each swipe is both magical attack and flaming attack, much like Infernal Iron Swarm. Attack interval is the standard 4. Splash target size is medium, so regular cavalry on down, and max target splashed is 4. 4 is higher than Ogres get. Melee defense begins at 40, interestingly enough, so they're more defensive than offensive out of the gate. Weapon strength of 120 is pretty high, split between base 36 and armor piercing 84, and there is a bonus versus infantry of 20. This is going to factor into what they do because 32 plus 20 is 52. And I don't say that to be pedantic, it's to say that this bonus versus infantry is over 50% of their base melee attack. They are designed to need it. Charge bonus is 40 and mass is 1500. That mass is supposed to make them pull through friendly forces a lot better, but any unit of large entities will stop a mammoth's charge cold just from existing. They'll take damage, of course. In the current version, the unit causes fear, can amusingly hide in forest, is a siege attacker, can have health restored by a demon smith. Regular construct repair skills will not apply, necrotechs have a sad face. Moreover, while the unit has demonic instability, burning bright renders the unit unbreakable until hit points are below 25%. This is kind of a big deal, and I really do not remember it existing when the faction launched, but hey, that was a big weakness of the unit before. Moreover, during its uptime, melee builds up Blazing Body, a passive which grants them a maximum of 10% more physical resistance and 25 points of melee reflection. Although there seems to be multiple procs on single entities, there is a cap, so this won't do much to a character, doing hundreds of points of incoming damage, but low-tier infantry might feel quite a lot of pain from this. I don't personally know if there is a minimum damage which drags out the damage reflection effect. I do not think so, but I can't personally confirm it. Point being, we see lots of reasons for the Fireborn to do a lot better against blobs than against giants, and not just what people report from their model sizes tripping over each other, but some units just plain need space to operate in this game. It's a feature more than a bug. In the redline skills, this begins the portion of the roster benefiting from hellish blows. In the 3 pips, that means melee attack plus 6 and weapon strength plus 12%. The former is far more crucial than the latter here. At rank 7, Wretched Warhost would add plus 12% more weapon strength, charge bonus plus 12 flat, and 10% physical resistance, which is absolutely not wasted. In the tech tree, Boiling Blood sacrifices add plus 5 melee defense to Fireborn specifically, and Demon Forges adds 10% resistance to all Kadai units, plus for rank 7 and up only, as the flammable contact effect, which gains 20 seconds, Sundering is 10 but this says 20, of fire weakness 20%. And yes, that applies to the Fireborn's own attacks too. For the Hellforge, this is a new set, so let's go over it with relish, and the Buster Den ketchup as well. Bound Seeker Demon adds Devastating Flanker, and we know what fun you can have with that. The Bound Barrier Demon adds 800 barrier hit points for some honorary Tzeentch action. Bound Demon of Murder, Dark Elves are being out-edgelorded, adds charge bonus plus 30 flat. So, you see a giant and a Gorgon-sized synergy with Devastating Flanker, right? Right? Strengthened Bindings as unbreakable to the unit that does not wear off at 25% hit points, and while that's become a lot less needed, this is still here, and it's still great. The Resilience Demon adds 15% missile resistance, and that's all night direction. You know enemies want to shoot this unit. Channeled Vigor adds Perfect Vigor, which is just disgusting. Furnace Fire adds the passive Forge Fire, and apparently this creates 35 meters of minus 15 armor debuff for your foes, independent of other sources of armor debuffing, which is a huge help for any base damage heavy melee unit on your side, which is anything Hobgoblin or non-great weapons. Finally, Rune of Shielding grants missile block chance 35%. Again, omnidirectional, I think, and that's just racking up the score at this point. So how do we use the Kadai Fireborn? Of course, the ideal use is as an infantry demolition device. They are monstrous infantry, they have the entities and splash profile of regular Kroxigors, and even though you can use them independently of infantry, just like trolls, you don't especially want to. They're going to last a lot longer if they have stuff around them to tank arrows and so on. Although, they are tall, but I just mean you're diluting the incoming damage. Enemies will naturally try to eliminate them, but you can work against that with Demon Smiths and Cunning use, and being able to hide them in forest does help on occasion. There are a lot of non-ideal uses. In the end, you just need to use them as monstrous infantry with ogre speed, slamming into whatever you need slammed and tearing them apart. You can't be too careful with them or you'll lose their usefulness. You can't be too crazy with them or you'll lose the unit too easily. Instead, they need to find places they can contribute most, hit it hard, and besides crazy campaign buffs, you need to suppress missiles through other means. So, work on that. That's your homework. Also, be aware that the Lamassu has an anti-magical attack aura around it, so even basic Overseers with 1 are going to make it really, really hard to overcome that physical resistance through melee magical damage, meaning that they would have a much better chance against, let's say, Dwarf Hammerers. This is a case where telling you is easier than showing you, but I do my best here. Making steady use of Kadai takes resources and dedication, and once again, we go back to this being a unit with large enough models. They want room to operate, mashing multiple infantry units at a time, which only works right if you have regular infantry or some other source of damage dilution helping. There's also a lot of synergy with spells. Even if it goes past physical resistance, a Flamestorm on top of them will still do a lot less damage than usual, and the usual is a sliding scale when it's 16 entities, not 160 like a skink cohort. When in doubt, be bold. Kadai charging animations really lay into infantry. You do not take this unit for holding the line. You can use it to rush in to deal with threats to your lines. That can work completely fine, especially if you've bitten off more than you can chew in terms of enemy range dominance. Flexibility is a good concept. Flexibility is easier with a 54-speed unit. That's all I have. Take care, have fun, and burn, baby, burn. Once they inflict Flammable, anything caught in that Flamestorm is taking 20% more damage, and Kindle Flame is a separate source of 20% fire weakness, and they stack additively, so